Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. And now, are you somebody who's a bit concerned about, well, many things, but principally when the thing hits the fan or if people knock on your door and try and sort of get hold of your property, you might be worried about your house. Should you protect your house in some way? I'm not talking about putting a brick wall around it or gates, although that may be a good idea. I'm actually talking about putting it into a trust so that nobody can grab it when the government or the globalists or the parasites are trying to do a big grab, which they seem to be inevitably aiming to do. What do you do? How do you put a house into a trust? Is it complicated? Is it expensive? Is it easy to do? And who the hell can you go to find out? Well, as it so happens, ladies and gentlemen, a lady approached me when I was giving a talk at Needham Market with the bowler hat farmer earlier this year, and she said to me, "Richard, I deal in trusts." And I said, "You know what? You need to come on the show." And she agreed, and she's here. Her name is Jo. Hello, Jo.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Busy as ever, doing the interviews and all of that. And actually, one of the things that I've been interested in, of course, is protecting oneself and thinking, what would happen if somebody's after my property, puts a lien on it, or tries to get the title or whatever it is they do when I
Yeah.
have paid off my mortgage ages ago now. And is it possible that anyone could actually take it from me? And how do I protect myself, Jo?
Well, yes, it is possible. And there's something very scary coming down the line at the end of the month where Keir Starmer is considering lowering the inheritance tax liability from 325 down to 125. So
Wow.
basically, anybody who has a property will be looking at having to pay this tax.
Yes.
Um, First of all, a bit about me. I've been a mortgage advisor, an independent mortgage advisor for over 19 years for my sins. And the old COVID woke me up 4.5 years ago, and I've learnt massive amounts since then. And basically, I really lost my love for my job, even though it was very well paid. And I think I helped an awful lot of people gain their forever home or get out of debt or whatever. It doesn't feel right anymore.
Hmm.
So I was forced to take some time off work at the end of last year, beginning of this year. I had an operation, and in that time, I reevaluated my life and thought, you know what, my job is very, very stressful, and it doesn't make me feel good about it anymore. So I need to do something else. I had a conversation with Gavin from Sovereign Empowerment. We had a few conversations because I had issues with utility companies. He helped me out with those, and I didn't go to court. I didn't have to go to court. I've won my case anyway.
Oh, brilliant. Well done, you.
And we started talking about trusts, and he gave me an insight into property trusts and suggested some books I should read, which is not the most exciting books in the world, let me say, but I've done lots of discretionary trusts in my career for people who have life cover.
Right.
So you put that in trust. So when you pop your clogs, your nearest and dearest get paid out your insurance straight away. You don't have to wait for probate. And that's the same with a property trust. If your property's in trust, you don't have to wait for probate. It will pay out straight away. The need for a property trust these days, as I said, the inheritance tax liability is 325,000 currently, which sounds a lot of money. But if you've got a house worth 300 grand, you've got life cover, you've got a pension, you have a bit of savings, you have a couple of cars, it all adds up, and they take everything you own, and anything over the 325, they tax you at 40%, which is
Right.
not difficult to have a massive, great bill, or your loved ones will have a massive, great bill when you pass over.
And a lot of people would just think, hang on a minute, why is that possible? You've saved up, you've paid a mortgage, you've been paying tax all these years. You've paid tax on everything you buy as well, including your diesel that goes in the car
Yeah,
and everything. And then when you snuff it, they want to take the tax on your house. You can't even pass it on to your son. Are you able to gift things before you die so that you could sort of
you are, but you're only allowed to give £3,000 a year.
Oh, right.
But you can give as much away as you like to your family, but then the 7-year rule comes into play. If you die within the 7 years, then they still have to pay the tax on it. And even if you gave your children £100,000 each, say,
yeah,
there would be no, and you survived the 7 years, there'd be no liability to tax for you, but they could be taxed on that money that you give them. So everything we do, they tax us on. You know, they tax us when we're alive, when we're dead, and it's almost, well, I'd say it's criminal actually what they get away with.
Well, it's certainly immoral.
Yes, definitely, and they make the rules. So
yes,
you know, and we have to find ways to protect our assets. And our biggest asset is usually our property.
Yes.
You know, we want it to go to our families and to keep in the family. And it's not possible if you get landed with a massive, great inheritance tax bill. So you can put it in a trust.
So, right, tell us about that then. So there you are. Let's say on average you've got, I don't know, a £300,000 house. So you're going to be over the limit, especially when it's gone down to 125.
Well, if they bring that in, I mean, it looks likely that they'll bring it in within the next 4 years. It may be immediately. Who knows? Yeah. But they are suggesting lowering the inheritance tax liability, and they're also suggesting that if you want to leave the country, like so many people are looking to do now, they want to take 50% of your assets for you to leave the country. I mean, this is mind-boggling. So hopefully that doesn't.
It's worse than the old feudal system back in the sort of Middle Ages.
I know
Who do they think they are? I mean, it is absolutely disgraceful. They just, I mean, I think they are signing their own death warrant, really, because people will come to a point and will say, this isn't a government that I can work under. I'm sorry. Yeah. But anyway, in the meantime,
new tax, every new law, you know, people are waking up and going, hang on a minute, this is too much. This is ridiculous. You know, we can't afford to turn the lights on, let alone, you know.
Are they working for us, or are they getting us to work for them? And I think most people have come to the conclusion of the latter rather than the former. Yeah. So what are we going to do? So we've got a house. We maybe have an expensive car or other things. We may have some paintings, or we may have other bits that are, you know,
everything.
Portfolio. So
everything.
Yeah. So how are we going to protect that then, Jo?
Well, you can put anything in trust, but I'm concentrating on the property trust because it's people's biggest asset. Anything else you can put in a will, as long as it's not worth over 325 or whatever it will be. You can put smaller things into a will, but a trust is a legal agreement that you transfer ownership of whatever it is onto whoever you want to own it after you pass. So that's your property. When you write a trust. It no longer belongs to you. It belongs to your beneficiaries, say your children, perhaps, or somebody.
Right.
So you're giving away ownership. So basically, your property. Okay, you're gonna. I don't know. I'll leave my property to my children anyway. So once I've gone, they can do what they like with it. So that is not part of your estate. So you may have life cover. You may have antiques. You may have a bit of gold and silver. But your property will not be part of the inheritance tax scheme.
Right.
So
why is it then that you can put that into a trust, and they go, we want our percentage, whatever it is, of that, and you go, well, sorry, it's in a trust, mate. Is that because you no longer own it, so it's not yours for theirs? It's not yours anymore for them to take.
And the main reason people put their properties into trust is inheritance tax liability. But there's also the creditors element to it. If you have creditors chasing you for, say, non-payment of council tax or something like that, then they will try and put a charge on your property. which they cannot do if you have a trust, because your property does not belong to you. So they can't put a charge on it because it's not yours.
So whose is it?
It's whoever you leave it to, but it's looked after by your trustees. And you have two trustees, and obviously they have to be people who you trust, because it's their job when you pass over to look after your estate, apply for probate, and dish out the inheritance, whatever it is, to your beneficiaries, the people you want to get your estate and your money, not the government.
Yeah.
And it's a big responsibility, but it's not difficult. It can be difficult if you've got buy-to-let properties and stuff like that, because they're they're in charge of the tax involved in rental income and stuff like that. But your own residential home, it's down to them when you go pass over to pass that over to whoever.
So let me just see if I've got this straight. So here am I in my 2 up, 2 down house. I've got 3 children that I'd like to leave the house to. They can squabble however they like once I'm dead and buried, or burnt, or put on a stake, or thrown darts at, or incubated, whatever it is. So I put it into a trust for when I die, but I no longer own it once I've signed on the dotted line.
That's right.
It now is down to it's the beneficiaries who own it, but they can't take hold of it or do anything to it until I actually snuff it.
It's not theirs. It's in a trust. It's not theirs until you pass.
But I can still use it.
Yes, you can still live there rent free. You can still do as you want. But yeah, it's safe basically from tax liability.
Right.
All these mega rich politicians, pop stars, singers, they don't own anything. Everything they've got is in trust.
Right.
And obviously they don't want us little people knowing this.
No.
It's completely legal.
I was going to say, it's that sense of owning something makes you feel like you've got something. But if you've got the use of something, if you can live in your house and you don't own it, well, it doesn't make any difference, does it? If you've still got the use of it and you can come and go and sleep until you snuff it when you can no longer live in it.
And they can't get their hands on it until you go anyway.
Exactly. So it doesn't actually matter that you don't technically own it.
No,
you still have the use of it, so nothing really has changed, except that that the people that you want to have it, once you're dead and buried, they can do whatever they like, and they will have it, and the government won't swoop in with their greedy hands and take off
what you've built up all your life. They can't take it because let's face it, we pay enough tax as it is. On our
goodness, I mean, they'll tax us for breathing, the poisoned air, and the. I don't know if they tax water. Do they tax water when you pay?
Probably coming down the line, but
somewhere along the line. I mean,
But also, if the worst happens and you can't look after yourself anymore, and you have to go into a home, then that stops you having to sell your home to pay for your care.
Yes, that's a very good point, actually, because that's what happened with my father. We had to start the ball rolling to sell his property whilst he was in a care home. And if it had been in a trust, then that wouldn't... But the burden would have presumably been on the council then.
Yeah. But the 7-year rule comes into play there. Especially people who are getting on a little bit need to seriously think about this. Because if you die within the 7 years, if you go into a home within the 7 years, then you're still liable to pay for that. It's on. If you die within 7 years and you're still 3 years, 4 years. It's on a decreasing scale basically. So if you have to go into a home, say 3 years into the trust, you'll still have to pay a percentage in inheritance tax.
But you wouldn't be able to sell your house because it's in the trust.
That's right. If you have to go into a home within the 7 years, then you may still have to sell that house to pay for your care. But it will be once you're in it, 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and it goes down on a decreasing scale. So you still have to pay something, but not the whole lot. But the sooner you do it, the better, because this 7 years rule has been around for a very long time. And that stands for anything you give away, which is worth over a certain amount.
So, okay, so let me just get this straight. So this 7-year rule, does that apply if I put my property for the kids?
Yes.
And the 7-year rule will still apply if something happens to if something if I
if you die if you die within 7 years or have to go into a nursing home within 7 years, it's still like you're still liable for it.
So, right. So I can't put the trust in the house. I can't put my house in the trust today. Have
an
accident tomorrow. No, hang on, and then have an accident tomorrow, and then go, oh, you're dead. So the house goes to the kids. It then is up for the government. It still has to go
through an inheritance tax liability process.
Oh, right. So you've got to survive. So to put your house in a trust, you've still got to survive 7 years.
Yeah.
Don't break a mirror is the obviously.
Well, there we go. There we go.
Bad luck. Right. So that is that would be a worry for some people all that time trying to survive 7 years without having to have anything.
If you're in your 80s and you're worried about having to, your loved ones having to pay the inheritance tax liability, then you need to pull your finger out really, because
if you're in your 80s, you might die in a couple of years down the line.
Yeah, but at least it's on a sliding scale. You won't have to pay the full amount back. It decreases over the time. And, once you get down to say, you've had the trust for like 6 years, I think it's probably down to 20% you have to pay, instead of 40
right.
or less than that even. But it's still not fair as far as I'm concerned.
No. I mean, if you put it in a trust so that somebody else will have it when you die, this shouldn't matter when you die. Why has the government got to have anything to do with it? The swans.
Well, exactly. And, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, I've got an example here. I'm just looking at my notes. If your house is worth 300,000 and you've got £100,000 life cover, you have £10,000 in savings, and say you've got an antique picture worth £5,000, your estate would be valued at 415,000, and that will give your beneficiaries a tax bill of £36,000. Now, this £36,000 has to be paid within 6 months of your passing, and the HMRC have to get their tax before anybody else get their inheritance. So right. That has to be paid. So if
you'd had to sell the house, you'd have to sell it damn quick.
Exactly.
And probably at a loss because you need to pay this sodding tax bill.
Exactly.
Well, they're really on your side, aren't they? They're really sort of being as helpful as possible.
And the thing with life cover, life cover is part of your estate. So if you have life cover or you are going to get life cover, write it in trust. And that's no longer part of your estate. It goes to your beneficiaries when you die with no need for it to go through probate. It will pay out straight away with a death certificate. So if you've got life cover, put it in trust. You just call up your existing provider, tell them you want to put it in trust. They will help you do it. It's not that difficult. I've done hundreds over the years. Also, pensions. If you have a private pension, talk to your pension provider and get that written in trust too, because some people have got really good pensions, £200,000, £300,000, £400,000 pensions. That becomes part of your estate if it's not written in trust.
Right.
So some people can go into the inheritance tax liability without using the house. They've probably got that in their pensions.
Well, lucky them.
It all gets lumped together. Everything you own gets lumped together, and then anything over the threshold, whatever that's going to be, it's 325 at the moment, then they will take 40% of that.
How do you get a trust up and running? Is it something you can do yourself? Do you just make a document and get people to sign, or do you have to go to a speciality person to have it written correctly? And is it expensive?
Well, I've done my own, and I got mine notarized. You don't have to get yours notarized, but I just want to make sure I did it right, to be quite honest with you. So
right.
I did mine. If you go to a solicitor, then you're looking at like £4,000 per trust, if not more. and they're obliged to notify HMRC.
Yeah, we don't want any of that nonsense.
No. You can go online, you can get the study material, you can teach yourself. It is a bit of slow, it is a bit of a task. And I know a lot of people wouldn't be confident enough to do that. So I'm offering a service to help people. I'm not advising anybody because I'm not a solicitor, but I'm just happy to tell people one-to-one, show people one-to-one, or visit them in their own homes if they're not too far away, and help them set up this trust. And once it's done, it's done.
Right. And
you're protected.
Yeah, and so the solicitor would cost you £4,000, and you're offering it for 7, which is, I think, no, wait a minute.
No, I'm very reasonable.
Very reasonable, absolutely. Well, people can negotiate with you, obviously.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm travelling around Suffolk, giving talks to Stand in the Park groups, community centres and places like that, and it's going down a storm. So I'm happy to, a bit like you, I'm happy to travel. But if somebody wants me to help them face to face, obviously, then if I have to go 2 or 3 hours drive down the road, then, you know, it benefits me to have more than one person to visit.
I quite agree.
Do it over Skype. I can do it over the telephone. I just need a few details, and I can get it done at a fraction of the cost.
Yes. Oh, well, that's going to be very interesting to a lot of people, I'm absolutely sure, because we do need to protect our property. Has there been any stories that you've come across or in accounts where it's been a bit, you know, you've had to sort of jump through hoops because the tax people have found it, I don't know how would you call it, difficult to deal with? No. I mean, once it's in there, that's it. You know, they can't argue at all, can they?
They can, but I've never heard of them actually. I've made a note here this morning actually because I did research this. Because they do say, you go online, they do say you need to register your trust. Well, it's a private trust, so it's private. It's private. You know, what you don't have to tell anybody.
No.
And the consequences of not registering your trust are very vague. And I searched and I searched and I searched, and all I could come up with, because there's no definitive answer to this, and I've typed out here, HMRC says, trustees who fail to complete the HMRC trust register may now face £5,000 fine. May.
So it's always this sort of may.
Yeah.
Because if you register it, you're effectively giving your rights to the title away. We know this now, don't we? We should never register anything, chickens or trusts.
And they go on to say, however, HMRC also recognise that there will be many trustees who are simply unaware of their obligations to register and will show some lenience. That's big on them.
Charming.
If HMRC decide that you have deliberately failed to register a trust or failed to keep the details of a trust up to date, we may charge you a fixed penalty of £5,000. Now, if my kids were looking at £50,000 inheritance tax liability when I pop my clogs, then I'll be happy for them to pay £5,000 in a penalty. You know, because it's private. It's it's your business.
Yes. Absolutely. And what right, really, do they have to sort of goose step into the limelight and say, you will give us all the information or we will have to go at you? Because it's, you're just like, the government, if the government is anything, it's supposed to be there to help us. It just seems to be all the time, hinder,
yes.
and take. And
it's so unfair. Do you know how long you get to register a birth in this country?
No, I wouldn't advise anyone to register a birth anymore, having learned what I now know. But
it's 42 days.
42 days.
42 days to register the birth of a child, if you want to do that, which is not good idea. Now, do you know how long you get to register a death?
Oh, I did have to register my dad within something like 10 days.
5 days.
Oh, 5 days, yes.
5 days. That is disgusting. You know, you've lost somebody you love dearly, probably,
Yes.
and you've got to traipse down to the register office and register this death before you could do absolutely anything. You can't bury them or get them cremated without your death certificate. And as soon as you're registered that death, everything that person had is frozen. Their bank accounts, their pensions, everything is frozen. Nobody can touch it. And I believe the reason for this is so they can come in and add up everything you have.
Yes.
And that's why everything is frozen, because then they can come back and said, well, your father, his estate came to 500 grand and you need to pay us this amount, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
5 days, you're still in shock. You're still in shock. You lost somebody you love. You're still in shock. And, you know, I think that's really, really unfair. But that is the way it is.
It is barbaric, but I did do a bit of research, actually, when my parents died. I think it was when my mother died. She wanted to give her body to science, and science didn't want it because she was an alcoholic, and they said, no, we want nice, perfect bodies, not abused bodies. So she was bitterly disappointed. Says, I want science to have love. Anyway, so it was a slight comical moment. They wouldn't have it. So my sister and I were looking at what we were going to do, and I did a little bit of research. And apparently, you don't have to bury a dead person or even have them cremated. It is legally allowed to keep them, as long as they are not a health hazard. So you could put them into, some special oil or into wax, or you could basically, like Tutankhamun, you could have them wrapped up in toilet roll, as long as they're not a health hazard. So
could you not bury them in your garden?
Well, this is it. This is where it comes a bit strange, because I think if you bury them or do something like that, then you have to declare it for some reason. There'll be somebody out there who knows that I'm probably talking complete hogwash, but this is what I discovered. And I did for a while joke to my sister that it would be quite fun to embalm my mother and have her just sitting in the living room for a few years. And it did strike me, what would you do then if you didn't do the death certificate? You didn't tell them that she's dead and said, well, no, she's over there. Would that sort of cock up the system? And but we didn't do that. She did get buried, cremated, and we had a lovely ceremony and all of that, as did Dad. But it did at the back of my mind. And apparently also, the other thing I found out was if they're in a hospital, which my mum was, then you don't have to have the funeral service take them away. You can actually take the body in your car.
Yes.
In your car, as long as you cover it up.
My son done that with helped a friend with his father, and they wrapped him up and they put him in the back of a transit van and they took him to the crematorium and got him cremated.
And you don't have to put them in a coffin either. That's the other.
No expense apart from the crematorium. No service. I mean, I don't know what the average cost of a cremation these days, but it's not cheap.
No, it's a good $5,000, isn't it? I think for a basic these days.
Yeah.
And you get that guilt thing and all of that. And I did say to my sister, I'm sorry we've gone off topic here a little bit, but we did go to my sister and say, look, she didn't want to be in a box. She wanted to give her body to science. Science didn't do it. I said, I've got a transit van. We could shove her in the back of there, place her gently in the back of there, and we could take her straight to the crematorium. But my sister wouldn't have it. We had to get a casket and we had to do it all because of, I think, the guilt thing of just turning up with a corpse and knocking on the door and saying, here, mate, could you stick this in the fire, please?
But you could. Could. And, my house backs onto a field. And I said to my boys, when I pass, I want to be buried in that field. And as long as you get the lands, the owner of the lands, as long as you get their permission, there's no reason why you can't do that.
There you are. I mean, we have been led down the garden path on what is supposed to happen. And I think coming back to the trusts, that's one of the things that people, if they're not aware that they can actually put their house into a trust so that the inheritance isn't going to the government as long as they survive those 7 years.
Well, most people think you have to be a millionaire to pay inheritance tax, and it's just not so. Even my mum's ex-council house, that was near enough 300 grand. That'd be worth now. So it's not difficult to go over that limit. And if they're suggesting that they may bring it down to 125,000, then everybody who has a property, or their loved ones or their beneficiaries, will be facing this tax. So if you keep taxing the family, you're not going to be able to do that.
Who determines the value of the house? There's your house. You might be able to put it on the market and sell it for 400,000, say, so you're well over the thing. But if you said, "Oh no, I don't think the house is worth more than 100,000," I mean, who's putting the value on it?
Well, you have to when you apply for probate, you actually have to get it valued
by
a
estate agent or something.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
You have to do it. So you can have get friendly with your local estate agent and say, "No, you just live in a shoebox, mate."
Yeah.
It's 50 quid. That's So presumably, so you reminded me actually that we had to get two quotes from two different estate agents, and then the letter with them saying, "Yes, we would value this property at £2.50. Thanks." Tipex is a good thing for getting rid of those noughts.
I mean, you can do your own probate. You go online, you log on to HMRC, and you can do it yourself. And they want to know an estimate. If you don't know exactly, they want to know an estimate of anything the departed, how much it's worth, estimate. But they will go in and they will get their own valuation done. But you're responsible to get the house valued, like you said, by two independent valuers, so they can tally up how much you pay them.
So you're not diddling the system and getting one over on the greedy government who wants to take everything else for themselves. Give it to me.
Exactly.
Give it to
me.
And
and that's part of the going cashless thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can't put your money in your cash in your safe or under your mattress anymore, because what if there is no cash anymore? They can come in and say, well, this is worth this, that, and the other, and they can rob you blind, basically, legally.
Yes. And if you take all your money out the bank and you put it, as you say, under the mattress, they can at any time just say, "Sorry, we've stopped fiat currency now, and we've turned it into CBDCs or whatever." Because the money in itself is just bits of paper that carries no value at all. It's not backed by anything. And people don't really quite understand that. We're still using cash in private transactions, which is very nice. But the minute they say, "Sorry, that's not acceptable in the banks," which they're slowly reducing the amount that you can take out.
Yes. Yeah. And another important point is there is no inheritance tax liability on married couples or civil couples. So if you're married or you're a civil couple, then one of you pops the clogs, everything you own go to them. It's only when the last survivor is standing, then that becomes liable when they pass. Right. So but if you're cohabitating and you're not legally married, then you have no rights at all. So you could be living together 30 years, and if you haven't put your partner in your will or your property in a trust to go to your partner, then they will get bugger all. It will be, it will go down the law, the rules of intestacy, and it will go to the next person down the line. So it's really, really important, if you're not married, either get married, which is a bit drastic, or put him or her in a will, in a trust, so you can protect them if you go first.
Yes. So, I mean, the other option, of course, if you're, say, in your 70s and 80s, is to marry an 18-year-old so that they get a little bit longer with the thing. Might be difficult, but with AI on these dating apps, as long as you never meet, you could certainly sort of re-age yourself. Yeah. But obviously it's not a practical solution. So just say that last bit again. You put your married partner into a trust.
Yeah, you can. Well, if you're married, you can do a joint trust, and
right.
If either of you go, that will pass on to the survivor. But if you haven't got your own property, say, and you haven't got much at all, what you have got, you want to go to who you want it to go to. And if you're
Yes.
living together, then please make a will. Please
Yes.
make a will. It's very, very important. And also, if you haven't made a will, then when you die and you have to go for probate, then if you haven't got a will, you have to apply for letters of administration, which really stretches out the process. So having a will actually does speed it up a bit. But if your property is written in trust, your life cover is written in trust, your private pension's written in trust, you don't have to wait. As long as you've got the death certificate, they will pay out straight away. Because
Right.
I mean, there's a massive backlog at the moment, so it can take over a year for probate to be granted. And which time, if you have a mortgage on your property, that can mean huge problems.
So
Because what lender's going to wait for over a year for any money?
yes. So just to remind, I mean, I went through the process. I can't remember what probate did now. You say it pays out. What does probate pay out?
Well, the probate just establishes, who gets what, basically, and your
Oh, I see.
legal right to whatever it is. And that's why wills and trusts are so important, because probate won't be granted until that's all in order.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And
Yes.
if you haven't got anything, if you haven't got a will or a trust or anything, then whatever you have goes to whoever's next down the line.
Next of kin.
Yeah, yeah.
And you hope that they're
So
going to be.
I mean, people don't like talking about death,
No,
but I
it's
think
an inevitable thing.
but I think death is one of the biggest lies we've ever been sold. It's about keeping us in fear, and everybody's frightened of dying. But if you look at it in a different way, that I don't believe that we die and that's it. I believe that we go on. I believe we're spirits having a human experience, not the
Yes.
other way around. But and I'm not frightened of death at all. I just think it's the next stage for us. But there's lots of legal implications if you own anything, so you have to get your stuff in order, really. And it'll be the best thing you ever did, because you're saving a lot of stress and a lot of
Heartache and stuff for the
yeah,
next
yeah,
for the whoever it is who you're leaving behind, as
yeah,
you kick off your mortal coil and say, "Thank God I'm out of that lot,"
yeah.
which
So
many of us.
it is it's a brilliant idea. But and if you don't register the trust, like I said, it's £5,000. They
Yeah.
might fine you. Um,
Yeah. So apart from yourself, where else can you go? I mean, I'm just thinking, if you're so busy and someone's ringing up and you say, "Oh, I can't make it," because where else can people go and get what is called an hang on, I've written this down, but I can't read my own writing. An irrevocable. What did you say it was?
irrevocable,
Irre,
irrevocable.
irrevocable. Thank you. Irrevocable Express Property Trust.
Yes. Well,
So
most people go to the solicitors, but as we say,
you don't want to do that.
it's expensive, and they may or may not tell HMRC, but they're obliged to do so. There are a few people online who are doing it for people. Sovereign Empowerment are one. I do them, and you can do them yourself. There's massive information online. If you can be asked to go through all that, then be my guest and do it. It has to be written out properly. It has to be legally written out. It has to have certain things in there. It has to have the three certainties for a start. It has to have two trustees. It has to have two independent witnesses. And that's another thing. If you get it notarized or legalized, then you will need to take with you your two trustees and yourself and your two independent witnesses, because all those signatures have to be witnessed.
Can the trustees presumably can't be the beneficiaries?
Your trustees can still be the beneficiaries. Yeah.
So I could leave my house to my kids, and my kids could be the trustee of it and be my witnesses.
Yeah. At the same time, just make them aware of what they need to do when you do
Yes.
go. the authorities that you have to tell.
Oh, I'll tell them not to poison me for 7 years, and then that way they get a better
Yeah,
job, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Just keep me alive, son. Keep me alive for 7 more years. You get the house. It's a bargain, isn't it?
So, the three certainties are the person who's creating the trust, the settler, they're called, or what's it called? The grantor. The people who are making the trust, they have to have the intention to make the trust. No, they're not being coerced, say, to make the
Yes.
trust. Certainty of subject matter, you've got to have information about the property, obviously the address and
Your
how
deeds
much
and all that.
roughly worth, stuff like that. The deed number, you need the deed number for this trust, but the certainty is the certainty of objects, which you need to be very clear about who your beneficiaries are. You can't just say, I leave my house, I want my house to go to my 3 sons, in my case.
Right.
Well, you need their names, you need their addresses. It
Yes.
needs to be clear. It can't be ambiguous because, otherwise, it will cause a problem.
Yes.
As I said,
If it's a private trust, presumably nobody else is allowed. Once you've done it, nobody else is allowed to see it until the point where you've snuffed it. The beneficiary.
The trustees will have a copy, and your beneficiaries don't even need to know that they're beneficiaries.
Right. They just suddenly get a house out of the blue.
It's up to you who you leave it to. They don't need to know. But your trustees need to be aware. And if the trustees are the beneficiaries, obviously they're going to know. But anybody else, it's private. It's your business.
Yes. So no one can stick their nose in until the trust has to be presented to whomever to say, look, he's the old boy, bald git that used to do YouTube videos. He snuffed it. Here's his trust. He's giving it to his kids. They don't know anything about it. So someone's going to knock up on the door and say, excuse me, you've got this house over there. Oh, crikey, that means I've got to pay council tax, which is what happened with my dad.
If HMRC did contest it, which I've never heard them doing that, to be honest with you, if they did contest it, I would say get it notarised, get it legalised. Then they can't contest it. But that's an extra expense.
Yes.
And you do have to take the trustees and the witnesses to whoever's notarising or legalising your document. I'm in Suffolk, and I found a guy in Norfolk who will actually travel to do this. So that's quite handy. And I'm sure there's other notaries out there who do the same.
I wonder what you have to do to be a notary.
Yeah, I asked him straight out, do you notify HMRC? No, I don't. So ask that question. If you want us to say, there's not, if you want to register it. But
of course,
I wouldn't. Why should you? You don't. You don't have to register your will unless you have a will writer come round and do your will for you, which you can actually do it yourself as long as it's not too complicated. But if you get a will writer and they do your will, they put it on a database. So when you go, the database is checked. But if you do your own will, or an advisor come and do your will for you, you don't have to do that. It's just kept in your drawer or wherever, till the time comes.
Yeah.
I've said to my boys, there's the folder, there's my will, it's in my filing cabinet.
And that's it. No one else need know till the time comes, and they can present it and say, he was in sound mind and body. That might be difficult for them to say that about me, but there we are. Listen, Joe, it's really, really interesting. And this is something that people, I think more and more people are getting worried about. They can feel the pressure. They know the government seems to be out of control. There are more global issues coming on as well with all of this. The inheritance tax, as you mentioned, is another sort of thing. People will be concerned, especially if they've, What about if you're in the process? I didn't ask this. If you've still got a mortgage?
If you still have a mortgage, you have to be careful. Don't register that trust. If you have a mortgage, you have equity, so that will protect any equity you may have. So if there's any creditors after any money, then they can't get at it. That equity will go to your beneficiaries.
Yes.
Like I said, if you have a mortgage and that's the thing. If you haven't got a trust or a will and you have a mortgage and you pass, then what lender's going to wait over a year for a mortgage payment or for the mortgage to be repaid? No, they will either do one of a few things. They will add interest on a daily basis. They put other charges on there. They may even, you know, make you sell that property to get their money back. And they will get that property sold for as much as they need to cover the mortgage. Anything else, they don't care. So they don't care to sell that house below market value.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've made a will and you put it in trust and you've put your life cover in trust and you've still got a mortgage and you pop your clogs, then your trustees can get your life cover, pay that mortgage off immediately as soon as you've got the death certificate, and then you won't have any fees or anything like that to worry about. But we've got to learn to protect everything we've got now, because we can't trust these people.
No,
you know,
absolutely.
They're after everything we have, and we need to, you know, we need to stay one step ahead.
Definitely, absolutely. Well, listen, Jo, it's been fascinating. Thank you for answering all my questions and putting up with my weird sense of humour. If anyone's interested, do you have a website or a contact address? Shall I put that in the description?
Yes, I have an email address. It will be my mortgage email. And if anybody wants any free mortgage advice or advice on wills, I'm happy to do that. I can't tell you what the best rate for your particular circumstances are because I'm not with a network currently. But any generic mortgage information you need, I mean, over 19 years I've been doing this job, so I know most of it. I know, you know, if you say I earn this much, how much can I borrow? I can work that out for you. Anything at all, it would be free of charge. You know, if you want more information about the trust, email me, give me your phone number, I'll call you back, and then we can discuss it.
Fantastic. There you go. Well, I'll put your email I'll grab it after the show and put it in the description so that people can contact you. And please be patient, because if you sent an email, if it's anything like my email box, it does take time to get round to them.
Oh, and also, could I just add, if anybody wants me to come and do a talk, then please email me and let me know, because I haven't been doing it very long, but I'm really enjoying it, and and people are saying it's very informative, and you know, lots of people haven't got a clue when it comes to these sort of things. So
no, I think that's a good idea.
Information which is easy enough for anyone to go online and search for themselves. So I'm not giving advice. I'm just telling people what I did and how I protected my asset.
Brilliant. And that's what people need to hear.
Yeah.
Jo, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on the show. And I shall have to look at doing that myself. So there we are. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, well, there you are. So do check out Jo's email. It'll be in the description. Big thanks to Jo for coming on the show. Thank you for watching and taking interest in protecting yourself, because, as Jo said, we've got to be at least one step ahead. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But until then, from the lovely Jo and myself, thank you so much for watching. Till next time, goodbye.